And the name on the front is a hell of a lot more important than the one on the back. Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
Wham! Cut-zap. First try. Why so serious?
He's a fast killer.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
I'm freaking pumped. I've been drinking green tea all goddamn day.
I don't know. I have a bad feeling about this.
Hello, everybody. You are listening to the Good Day for a Movie podcast. We are brought to you by GD4GD. So head on over to GD4GD.com and buy some dope gear, because $10 of every single sale gets donated to their nonprofit partner, which right now is the Pink Agenda. That's going to go on until the end of 2020. They are a nonprofit focusing on raising money for breast cancer research. And they've got some really cool stuff, so definitely go check it out. I'm Jacob, and alongside me, Tate.
Ya boy.
And our anonymous third co-host. How we doing?
Doing great.
Good. Right on. I'm
good.
Good. I'm glad that you are good. I am very good, because guess what?
It's your movie pick.
It's my movie pick. Does anything get better than it being your pick?
God, I love it when it's my pick.
Oh
my gosh.
Man. I mean, it's
like you got to struggle through when it's not your pick. You just got to accept it and go with it. But man, when it's your pick,
it is a roller coaster ride.
Especially because our anonymous co-host picks such bad movies.
Oh, yeah. Jeez.
Speak for yourselves.
All right.
What movie you got for us?
The movie I have for us is a movie written and directed by Aaron Sorkin. I don't know if you guys are very familiar with Aaron Sorkin.
Not familiar.
Wrote A Few Good Men, The Social Network, The Molly's Game, West Wing, Steve Jobs, Newsroom, Screenplay for Moneyball, The Social Network. He's awesome.
You said that twice.
Oh, did I just? Oh, yep, I definitely did.
There are two social networks?
Well, The Social Network 2 that he wants to write.
So he specializes in movies that are true, or like based on true events.
Yep.
Because that sounds like that you just said Social Network, Molly's Game, Moneyball. There's one other one too. But
yep. And this movie is no different. It Eddie Redmayne, Sacha Baron Cohen, Jeremy Strong,
my favorite.
Joseph
nice.
Gordon-Levitt, and I'm sure there's a few more people in there that I'm missing, but Michael Keaton's in here. The name of the movie is The Trial of the Chicago 7. Brand new to Netflix. It is the story of 7 people on trial stemming from various changes surrounding the uprising at the 1968 Democratic National Convention in Chicago, Illinois. I know next to nothing about the events that are going to be unfolding in this movie.
Oh, here it is. Wow, it took me forever to find it.
Me too.
What I do know is that I am a big fan of Aaron Sorkin. I have actually just restarted a West Wing rewatch, and it's so good. Aaron Sorkin is just when he's at his best, he is actually reeling himself in a little bit, and I'm sure we'll get into this after the movie's over. But yeah, he just is, no doubt in my mind, one of the, if not the best writer in Hollywood.
Huh. I mean, I've seen a lot of his movies, but I was just looking at, the only names that I know in this are Sacha Baron Cohen, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Michael Keaton, I think.
You know Eddie Redmayne.
Who's Eddie Redmayne?
You would recognize him. This guy.
Oh, he's Stephen Hawking.
Yeah. Theory of Everything.
Yeah, Theory of Everything. That's right. Yeah, he's great.
Well, what do you think?
All right.
Any thoughts over there?
Nope.
Hopefully, a lot more thoughts.
Chicago's cool. I like that city.
Yeah, I'm sure they're going to eat a lot of pizza in this movie.
Oh, fingers crossed.
All right, folks, we will see you on the other side.
We want to underscore again that we're coming to Chicago peacefully, but whether we're given permits or not, we're coming.
We're going to Chicago to protest the Vietnam War.
And there's no place to be right now but in it.
We watched for a decade while these rebels without a job tell us how to prosecute a war. But they're going to spend their 30s in a federal facility, real time.
People say, you know, Abby, are you concerned about an overreaction from the cops?
Holy shit.
You all right?
I was until I saw that. Are the people ready to make opening arguments?
At the defense table, Abby Hoffman, Jerry Rubin, Dave Dellinger, Rennie Davis, Lee Weiner, John Freund, Tom Hayden, and Bobby Seale. These defendants had a plan, and the plan was to incite a riot.
I call this portion of the trial with friends like these.
My trial's begun without my lawyer.
The court assumes you are being represented by the Black Panther sitting behind you.
The riots were started by the Chicago Police Department.
Sustained.
Nobody objected.
Jurors 6 and 11, they're with us. Juror number 6 and juror number 11, you're dismissed from this jury.
Can you tell us why?
Because this is my courtroom.
We've dealt with jury tampering, wiretapping, a defendant that was literally gagged.
Get your hands off me!
You're the first to suggest that I have discriminated against a black man.
Then let the record show that I'm the second.
But when we walked in here this morning, they were chanting that the whole world is watching.
If we leave here without saying anything about why we came in the first place, it'll be heartbreaking.
Last summer, why did you come to the convention? To end the war.
We're giving them exactly what they want, a stage and an audience.
Yeah, you really think there's going to be a big audience?
This is what revolution looks like, real revolution. We may have to hurt somebody's feelings.
Is this prosecution politically motivated?
I'm tired of hearing you.
It would be impossible for me to care any less what you are tired of.
There will be order!
We have to find some courage now.
How much is it worth to you? What's your price?
To call off the revolution?
My life.
All right, we are back. I think it's fair to say that Aaron Sorkin has done it again. And I would like to get one thing out of the way before we fully start this review of the trial of the Chicago 7. We're not going to relate this to modern day political issues. We know that this is a very prescient movie, and it applies to our justice system from the end of the movie up until today. But in the name of entertainment and civility, we are going to keep it to the movie itself. We're a movie podcast. We're not a political podcast. So
that being said, though, this is a heavy movie.
Yeah. It is.
Initial thoughts from the two of you.
You want to go first?
Yeah, because Abby Hoffman keeps coming in my life one way or another, and I don't get it. It's weird, to be honest.
How else is he?
Yeah, how else is he?
He came in school twice. In junior high school, it's very
He
vague.
came to...
No.
Oh, he killed himself in 89.
I had to research Abby Hoffman.
Oh, you're just talking in... Oh, my gosh. When you said that, I was just like, what?
Not as a person.
Yeah, well, you were just like, well, I was in middle school. And I was like, where's this going?
So the first real time he came into my life was in high school. I wrote a paper about him and his activism in his life. Don't remember anything about it. Just remember his name. And he was basically a part of my history class for a couple months. And then he's in Forrest Gump. He's featured in Forrest Gump, which is one of my yeah. Huh. You know the scene where they call, like, that guy with the bandana calls soldiers on, and Forrest Gump is up, and he's like, and he asks him about Vietnam, and then Jenna runs up through the waterfall.
Yeah,
that's Abby Hoffman.
Huh.
Oh, okay. I
know what scene you're talking about.
Yeah.
And Forrest Gump is like one of my favorite movies of all time.
What? When does Forrest Gump supposed to take place?
During that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that was right in the 60s. Like, yeah, that was in the 60s.
Because he was in the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
That's where he met Lieutenant Dan.
All right, continue.
Anywho, and now it's just like up to, like, for some, there are just small counts where it's like, Abby Hoffman, why is his name coming up again? And here he is. And so it's just kind of weird to have him just
off
back
of that,
in my life.
Let's give Sacha Baron the credit that he deserves.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Well, like, I guess we need to give everybody their credit, because I think everybody killed it, but Sacha killed this.
Yes. I mean, I am not the biggest Borat fan, and I know you are not as well.
I do not like Borat.
You have one big fan. Very nice.
Very quotable, but
yes, very
bad.
quotable, funny quotes. But I don't even really remember watching it, but I remember it being kind of funny. But anyways, the entire cast really did do an incredible job, and I think this isn't to discredit them, but man, everything Aaron Sorkin writes, it's just, as long as you kind of follow the direction that he gives, to me, there's not a bad performance in a single movie or TV show that I've seen from him. It's just so awesome and just witty. Like there's witty comments throughout, and then he can go deep when he wants to. I have a note in my phone. I was tearing up at the end.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a tearjerker.
Yeah, Tate, what your initial thoughts of the movie?
Yeah, I think the things that I loved about this overall were the writing. I think that was one main thing because it was very quick, very witty. Everyone had lines. It wasn't like they have. I mean, other than the two guys of the seven that were just there to help get their friends convicted. But other than that, like everyone had lines. There was a lot of humor. There was a lot of, but it was very serious, and it was like I felt every line was like powerful, and every line fit, and it was like important, and it mattered. Whether it was like the discussion, like a cross trial or anything, or even like the discussions that they had at their house between each other. So the writing I thought was an incredible part of the film. The acting was incredible. I was really surprised at how many faces I actually knew, because at the beginning of the movie, I was like, oh, I only know 3 names. But when faces kept coming up, I was like, oh, I know that person. Oh, hey, I know
the guy
him.
from The Founder was in there.
Yeah.
Who played, not Ray Kroc. Well, Ray Kroc was also in there.
Ray Kroc was also in there.
The McDonald's guy.
Yeah. Well, and then the attorney, the defense attorney, like he was the one that I was like, even because he was in a lot of movies.
He's been in a bunch of Spielberg movies.
So there's just, anywho, it was a very stacked cast that I didn't even know until we just kept watching the film, and then I forgot Michael Keaton was in it. And anywho, so I think the characters and the acting was incredible. The writing was really good. The story is really good, and that's something that I kind of want to get into later, because I looked up the accuracy of everything. But the one question that I kind of had was at the beginning. I remember I wrote it down. Was this? I was wondering if this movie was going to try and paint a picture of one side over the other, or if it was going to portray both sides and let the viewer kind of decide. And so that's one thing that I was like, I wrote that question down at the beginning, because I remember that first interaction between the new Attorney General and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, when he said that he wanted to indict these guys for the crimes, and he said, but they said this, and he said, well, we need to convince the people that didn't happen. And so right off the bat, it's just clearly a big he said, she said case, which they go over a lot. And that's what I was like, that initially sparked the question of, are they going to paint this down the middle and give you both sides of the angle? Or are they going to heavy on one side and say, these guys, like this was clearly the way to look at this case and it was right or wrong, like black and white. So that was an initial question I had, and I do think that they took a side for sure. But I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, this came up with Get On Up. What are they called? Biographical
movies.
Biographical movies.
Last time he said autobiographical, I'm like, no, that would be when the person writes his own biography, his or her.
Yeah. Anywho, those kinds of movies, I always have that kind of salt in my head, like, how accurate is this?
Yeah. Well,
it
and like
certainly paints massive picture.
Because I was wondering if they were trying to sway the audience in a certain way based on the way they told the story, which, like, that's where I was like, okay, I understand that you're trying to make the judge look like he's a horrible guy, but how accurate was all these things? And so that was the initial thought in my head going throughout the whole thing, because I just want to make sure that I'm not easily swayed by the way someone tells a story and look at the actual facts. But everything at the very end also, the where he said that like 78% of the local judges ruled that he should not judge. And I was like, okay, well, that seems like a pretty fair.
I mean,
so
you got it, yeah.
That's just one thing that I noticed in the film, and that at the beginning is I was like, are they going to try and tell the story a certain way, or are they going to tell it how it is, kind of thing? So I wasn't sure what Sorkin was the director, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I wasn't sure what his take on that was going to be, but I was.
Yeah, I think what I'm glad that they didn't do is they didn't paint it out to be like there's a clear, like the police are like the clear bad guy in this, because that's what one of my fears of coming into this movie was. And that's because I am pretty familiar with Sorkin's work. I'm not the most familiar with like his earlier movies. Like the reason I love The West Wing so much is because it is like, so it's a Democrat administration, but they keep it not apolitical, but they make fun of both sides and they kind of show it from both ways. And like when any political issue comes up in the show, they like make the arguments for both sides. And so I had hope going into it, and I think my hope was granted. I don't know if that makes sense, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think that I don't think it was Sorkin's goal to go in here and say, were these guys guilty or were these guys not guilty?
Yeah.
His goal was certainly to make this movie to say, look, these guys were obviously innocent and they didn't conspire to start a riot.
Yeah, that's what I think. At the beginning of the film, for the first half of it, I was thinking that it was going to be were the cops in the wrong or were the protesters in the wrong, and like it was that kind of battle. But it really just painted a picture, and I think the only person that he kind of pins on being a bad guy is the judge.
Yeah.
Which he clearly,
for sure. Yeah, and it's not even that he's a bad guy; it's that he's an incompetent.
Yeah,
idiot.
incompetent judge.
Yep.
And so that's the only person that he really in the film paints as like the bad guy. Like I think he does a really good job of saying, just all of the pieces combined in this 1968 like riots at the National or Democratic National Convention, and he paints all these pictures and gives a really good solid argument. And basically 80% of this film takes place in that courtroom, and I think that that is just a part of kind of what he's trying to say, is that it was that he wasn't trying to say anything about right or wrong. He was just trying to portray these 7 people and their stories more clearly than what happened in the courtroom that day or over that 6 months, I guess.
He was trying to create the setting, I think is what you're trying to say. He wasn't trying to position himself. He was trying to recreate the setting that was happening in that courtroom, which something I'm going to say, I don't think I've seen many movies. The only other one I can name off the top of my head is To Kill a Mockingbird. That's pretty much mostly in a courtroom.
Oh, sir. I need to introduce you to 12 Angry Men. It is...
I am an angry man.
Have you ever... Do you know what this movie that I'm talking about is?
No, I have no idea.
Oh, it's from 1957, and it's about a jury. It's the 12 jurors, and they just don't want to be there and whatnot. It's a fantastic movie, and I could see a lot of... Not that we were focusing on the jurors, but there was a lot of this movie that almost pulled from it with the courtroom setting. And it's one of the classics.
Anywho,
But yeah.
it was interesting for being kind of like there's more characters in play than 127 hours, but when you have like the whole movie pretty much happening in one setting, kudos.
Yeah, for sure. Before we get too deep into this, I want to say Jeremy Strong's character, Jerry Rubin. Jeremy Strong is quickly becoming one of my favorite actors, mainly from Succession, which I know neither of you two have seen yet.
That's what
you
he's
have seen
from.
it? Okay.
No, but I knew I recognized his face.
Yes, and
because he's clean cut in Succession.
Oh yeah, every other role that I've ever seen him in, and I've only seen a few: Succession and The Gentleman. He is playing completely against type here, and it is awesome. Like, typically, he plays like this rich character who's just kind of a snob and has all the money in the world. And in this one, he just doesn't play that.
Yeah.
Yeah. He, very, very good acting from Jeremy Strong.
Well, and like speaking on like the characters, that I loved that the opening remarks scene where Joseph Gordon-Levitt stands up and addresses the jury. And there's just so much disruption that happens in that 10, 15-minute scene between the judge, between the defense attorney, and between
the judge can't get
Abby
his name right.
Yeah, man, Sacha Baron Cohen just was hilarious in that scene. But and that entire I think 15 minutes, however long that was like the epitome of the quick, witty, comedic, intelligent conversation that this entire movie has in it.
Yep.
And entire scene I loved. It was great.
And even if you go back to like the very opening scene, not like the newscast part, but like the part right after it when it's actually like footage from the movie, of like kind of introducing all, I guess, 3 of the parties, the Panthers, the Yippies, and the preppy college people. That was typical classic Sorkin, where Sorkin always, he's famous. I want to say he's famous for these it's called a Sorkin Walkabout, where the character or multiple characters are talking to each other as they're walking and the camera's following them. And then like a new character interacts with them and it jumps over to like wherever that character's
Wherever
going.
that person's
They kind of
walking.
finish their sentences.
Yep, and like it's very quick and it's witty and it's snappy and it's like it feels like you're watching a tennis match because your head's going every which way.
Well, that has a lot of that in Molly's Game. Like I'm thinking back when you're talking about Molly's Game has a lot of that, and also Social Network has a lot of that. So I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's funny to watch a director or writer's movies and kind of put all these needles through the same thread.
It really, like, that style really keeps you so engaged.
Yep.
And like your brain moving the entire movie because you have to keep up. Otherwise, you're pausing and rewinding like we had to do a couple times to catch the names.
Had to catch the names, and like I said, I've said this many times, subtitles are so helpful.
I don't even know. I probably listened much better than I could read how fast they were going. That would have been tough.
I'm going to sign a petition for having one of our buttons be, it is what it is. Because that's kind of what it was. It's like when you read an old Russian novel and they throw 200 names at you. You're just like, it is what it is. Like, you just go on.
Yeah, everybody knows I'm really big fans of old Russian novels.
They're my favorite.
Those are my favorite types of novels.
One other thing that I wrote down is that I always find courtroom language and the way that they address everything and the way that they, just say what they're trying to say is so impressive. Like, and I know that this is just a small snippet of what it is actually in like a courtroom, but I think it's just all the language and how intelligent everyone is as far as attorneys. And I mean, even the guys like Abby and Hayden, like all of those guys are so intelligent in the way that they express their words and their thoughts. And I just think it's very impressive.
Half the time lawyers are speaking a different language.
Yeah.
I do wonder about the way they portrayed Abby, because from my memory, and there's a movie, it's called Steal This Movie, and he wrote a book called Steal This Book. And in
I've
the
heard
movie
of the book.
Steal This Movie, I don't remember. I watched the movie and that was another connect. I didn't watch that as research for my. I just watched it at some point afterwards. He didn't seem that eloquent, and he seemed much more of a druggy, like total
Head in the
Woodstock.
clouds.
Yeah. They definitely painted him as a very eloquent, well-spoken.
I don't know if Sorkin can paint somebody as not eloquent and well-spoken.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
that's fair.
Yeah, who knows how truthful that was in his character, but it's good for the film. And I guess that's a good segue into what I was reading up on, which is the historical accuracy of the film. And so the only thing that I read that there were 3 things that were off about the film and that Sorkin kind of made up or changed a little bit. One of them was the FBI lady, that Jerry Rubin. So she not real.
Really?
Yeah, she was not real.
That's a dinger on the movie
But
a little bit.
he said that they think that he threw her character in because it's an incredibly male dominant cast and like it's an incredibly male dominant movie and all of the characters in play are all male, and so he kind of saw this as an opportunity to just throw in a female character because otherwise it wouldn't have had really any. That was one, but it was just, I guess that was just a small thing because there were a bunch of FBI agents undercover that were really close to these guys. And so he just kind of created her and also gave it a little bit of a comedic love interest for Jeremy, but that was mostly for the crowd. The second one was which this is the most interesting one, I think, was the treatment of the Black Panther party leader. And it said that, and I think he did this just to kind of be concise in the movie, but it said that it was not nearly that quick. It said that he was bound and gagged and everything, but he said that he was like that for 3 days almost, or several days before the defense attorney, which was Weinglass or something like that. The other attorney, not the main one. He said something, and basically at that point, they released him. But it was several days of that sort of treatment. So I guess like that
and
whole
it wasn't Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character. It wasn't the prosecuting attorney that.
Oh, I don't know I don't know if it was after. All I know is that it said that went on for longer than it said. I don't know who initially stopped it.
It was in the movie.
In the movie, it was. I don't know if they covered it.
Prosecution, which was pretty important to the theme of the movie.
In reality, Seal's abuse went on for multiple days. On the third day, a lawyer for the defense. A lawyer for the defense, Weinglass, tells Hoffman that Seal is in extreme discomfort. Blah blah blah. Sorkin indeed highlights. So he doesn't say who actually stepped up, and so I don't know if Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character actually is the one that addressed the bench for that. But I think that he must have just done that just to kind of speed that process up and also make as much of a statement as what actually happened. And then the third thing was the last scene, which was the tearjerker you were talking about. He said that actually all of the defendants got a say, and they each made a brief statement. And so he didn't take that time to read off all the names. But the writer, Sorkin, made this adjustment to try and portray maybe his actual goal of like what the whole point of this entire argument was about. And to kind of bring an emotional rejoicing factor to the entire thing. So those are the only three things that it said were inaccurate. But
gotcha. The last part is the only thing that gets me there. I wish that last part was accurate.
Yeah, I know. I thought that was really well done.
I don't like all three of them.
The FBI agent doesn't, or
that
the
one doesn't
undercover
bother
agent
me that
doesn't
much.
bother me because that it wasn't. Maybe she didn't have a relationship with Rubin, but that type of thing was going on, and there were FBI agents undercover that did testify. So
that part doesn't bother me. It's so with biographical. God, I got to get that right at some point. With biographical movies, kind of going back to our first comments on the way that the director sets the movie, I think it is, kind of important to be setting what happened rather than influencing how we perceive the setting. And I think her role and her testimony definitely her saying, if I remember it right, the answers to her questions were saying none of the 7 people accused were inciting riots. She pretty much said
they were
no,
telling people to come back.
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of thing.
She was talking about all the FBI detectives and the people being involved in such acts. So her role in her testimony was an influence to the theme of the movie, that they are innocent, that this was a total gong show. And so that's kind of a problem. The second part, Joseph Gordon-Levitt was definitely portrayed as like the prosecuting lawyer that kind of knew that this was a phony or a hoax. That's kind of iffy with me too. It's like, okay, so really it's just another point of influencing the setting when the prosecuting, like what probably should be the antagonist, is also a protagonist, and like you were saying earlier, the only antagonist is the judge. And then the third point, that was kind of the redemption arc for I don't know the actor's name. I don't remember the character's name either.
Hayden.
Hardaway Hayden. That was like the end of a redemption arc for Hayden after he accidentally stood up when the judge told everyone to stand and the other guys were sitting, and then all the other stuff. So that takes away his redemption
for his comment on the stage.
Yeah. So that kind of steals his redemption arc. So I do have issues with all three of those, especially since they were made up, not exaggerations or watering downs of what happened, but made up.
So I think you might have misconstrued then the second point, because the second point wasn't anything about Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character. It was all about the treatment of the Black Panther guy.
No,
and so they're just saying that was just watered down. And so it wasn't saying anything about the historical inaccuracy of Joseph Gordon-Levitt and the prosecuting attorney. It was just that fact was just that it was that situation with the Black Panther leader was watered
and that
down.
is staggering. That was for 3
So I'm just saying
days.
that
that is messed up.
Yeah, and so I'm just saying that it wasn't anything about Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, who he is or who he wasn't. So, yeah, I think it was just about the Bobby Seale guy. Okay. And then the first one, I still think that I guess the FBI girl. Yeah, I mean, girl. I see what you're saying. I can see what you're saying. But
yeah, I get your point. But for me, it's more of just it was never said that this specific thing didn't happen and that testimony wasn't that, because that's still possible. It's just that it wasn't a girl.
Yeah.
So look at it like that.
Yep. But that Bobby Seale part was crazy. And to know that it was 3 days.
Well, and I again, like it seems like they didn't, that it was all watered down, I guess. But I wonder in the courtroom if like they all actually decided not to stand and everything for the judge, because that would be a pretty big move by all of these people to not stand for a judge.
Yeah.
So I hope that was accurate, because that's a pretty big thing. That
is definitely a big thing.
If you're gonna fib that.
Yeah.
But it did say that the entire court briefing, which I think that it was kind of like the girl that's typing everything. When he addresses it when Michael Keaton's on the stand, it said that this entire briefing is going to be released actually in sync with this movie. So
nice. That's interesting.
Yeah, so that's why a lot of these like facts are being checked right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that'd be one of those ones that'd be really interesting to read a summary of that. But one thing that I also really liked throughout the film is that they kind of portrayed Hayden as like the main character kind of the seven. Wow, that sounded like I'm talking about a superhero team. Because that's
the boys.
That's the boys. That's why that. Wow, weird. Anywho, they kind of portray Hayden as this like main character, kind of like in this article that I read, he talks about how Sorkin does kind of have Hayden as his hero character, because he's someone that moves within the system and still stands for what he stands for, believes in, and so he is kind of the hero character to Sorkin, but it seems like throughout the film, he almost separates Hayden from the rest of everyone else, from Abby, from even like his friend, and even some of the, like he almost stands out as this guy who is the most reasonable out of all of them, because like, I mean, that comment that he makes towards Abby, where he says, I don't want you to be the face of the revolution because of what you stand for.
Yeah, and the whole part about Abby saying your number one priority is winning elections, while your number two is race inequality, stopping the war and whatnot. And I really liked Hayden's rebuke to that was, well, if you don't get number one, you're not going to get anything else, which is true.
Yeah. But I really liked, I guess, that Hayden kind of stood out from all the rest of them, and he almost seemed the most reasonable. And sometimes I think they tried to, like, it was kind of a pro and con that they gave for him. He seemed the most reasonable, but he also seemed the most like selfish to the others, at least. Mm-hmm. Like the others saw him as the most selfish because they were all in this together and they were all putting their lives on the line. And like Abby said, when he was just like, what's the price for this? He's like, it's my life. And Hayden was kind of the one that was most worried about his sentence and how long that was going to be, and wanting to appease the judges throughout the entire film. So I liked how they kind of, within all of these defendants, they separated Hayden out to kind of be almost represent two types of people in this situation. Again, I don't know if that's actually who they were in those situations, but I think to just kind of to paint that polarity of the two opinions of the defendants and what they care about. I thought that was really interesting.
So like in regards to the actual trial, one of the things on Wikipedia is at sentencing, Hoffman suggested the judge try LSD and offered to set him up with his dealer he knew in Florida. The judge was known to be headed to Florida for a post-trial vacation.
Wow, Hoffman's my hero, kind of out of this win.
And he also said to the judge, "You are a Shanfar de Goyim, disgrace in front of the Gentiles. You would have served Hitler better."
When Hoffman and Rubin dressed up as judges, yeah. That's so great.
And then he's like, remove those robes,
and they're
dressed as the cops.
Yes.
Man, they are two funny people.
Yeah,
and they even even the film when he was just like, he's like, don't underestimate Abby. He's like, he's a smart guy.
And then the other funny part was every time somebody would object and they'd all say sustained at the same time.
And then a couple other things he said. Your idea of justice is the only obscenity in the room. And then both Davis and Rubin told the judge this court is bullshit.
Still, they had probably a lot of good one-liners in that.
Yeah, but I mean, his life after that.
If they caught like every word of that, it'd be like you could make a TV show, just like a sitcom almost out of just their interactions with that
just
judge.
A spin-off.
Yeah, of just like Abby and Rubin versus the judge.
Yeah, and just his life after that was like he just got into a whole bunch of trouble. He ended up like he kept saying in this, it said that cops kept trying to like plant drugs on him and like get him arrested and stuff, and he had to change his appearance and go underground and like leave his family for like 15 years and then came back out of the underground, and which is the part I remember from Steal This Movie. That part, I think that might have been.
Oh, so you've seen Steal This Movie?
Yeah, I saw it.
Oh.
I only remember parts of it, but
have you read the book?
No, I didn't know it was based on a book.
Because I've heard that book, Steal This Book, but I have no idea what it's about. But now I'm very curious because I think Abby is a very interesting character. And
this is an interesting little fact about the movie. So Steven Spielberg was originally supposed to direct this. And when he was attached to direct it, he was planning on meeting with Heath Ledger to play the role of Tom Hayden. So this is a movie that's been long in the works.
I could see that.
Oh, yeah. Wow, yeah.
And then Ledger passed away the day before he was scheduled to meet with Spielberg. So that's pretty crazy. And Spielberg also wanted Will Smith to play Bobby Steele.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to clarify, it's called The Conspiracy because it was conspired by the prosecution against them. Like the conspiracy wasn't on.
You talking about the house that they were living in?
No, it's called, the event in history is called The Conspiracy.
Oh, it is?
Chicago 7 Conspiracy Trial is the name of the event.
Well, no, it's called that because they were on trial for conspiracizing.
Oh, for conspiring.
Conspiring.
Conspiracizing.
That makes a lot more sense. I had it on the tip of my tongue, and I was like, no, that's not it.
You got biographicomical, and I got conspiring.
I've said my fair share of dumb.
It was so impressive. Like, literally, the only experiences I have of that guy are Borat and Bruno. And Bruno was quite possibly the most atrocious movie I've ever seen in my
Bruno,
life.
and then Abby.
Yeah. What the heck?
I've actually heard a lot that Sacha Baron Cohen is like an actually good dramatic actor, and I'd never seen him anything either. And also, you've seen Talladega Nights.
Oh yeah, totally. Sorry,
and
that's
you've
like his
also
one
seen
good
The
comedic
Big
role.
Lebowski.
He's in The Big Lebowski. I don't remember The Big Lebowski.
What do you mean he's in The Big Lebowski?
Isn't he the other bowler guy?
No, that's not Sacha Baron Cohen.
Yeah, him. Oh, goddamn, you're right. Damn it. All right, in my head, that was Sacha Baron Cohen.
But he is intelligent. I totally forgot he's intelligent.
I did too. I was just looking at his IMDb.
You know what? I thought that was the same person. Talladega Nights and the Big Lebowski guy.
This is like a Kurt Russell all over again.
Yeah, Kurt Russell and
Who's in The Big Lebowski? Kurt Russell or Jeff Bridges?
Bridges.
It's Jeff Bridges. Yeah.
Bridges.
I was saying if Tate knew that.
They don't even look the same.
Tate always
We won't
gets
go
it
into that.
confused.
We won't
Oh
go
my
into
God, they're the same person.
But Sacha Baron Cohen was easily the most impressive in this movie.
Yeah, I think he was too. Well, I think that Hayden's whatever his name is,
Eddie Redmayne. Yeah,
Jesse
this
Eisenberg.
Thank you for bringing that up. This is
He did really good too.
This is his first role that I was like, oh yeah, okay, that I've seen. I guess I should say. I'm like, oh, he's not just like an awkward, fumbling weirdo. Because like in the couple other movies I've seen, the one that comes to mind is the Fantastic Beasts movies, the Harry Potter spinoff. His character in that, he never makes eye contact. And I've seen him in something else since then. I can't remember what it was, but the two characters that I've seen him play, he just like is this awkward guy who like I said, just always is kind of looking down and never makes eye contact with the person he's talking with. And I was like, oh, he actually like can act like as a confident person. I didn't know that. So Redmayne was definitely very good, but I would definitely give Best Actor to Sacha Baron Cohen from this movie.
Yeah, I think I'd have to give Best Actor to Sacha. But yeah, and the only other movie I've seen by that guy, Redding or whatever, is The Theory of Everything, which he's really good, tearjerker of a film. But I thought he was incredibly impressive in this. And I think one of my favorite characters was the defense attorney. I don't know his name. Oh, yeah.
Kunstler.
Kunstler, the
Mark
counselor.
Rylance.
Yeah, I thought was very impressive too, in his role as a serious but and respectful attorney. But
yeah, and when he cracked a smile, you cracked a smile too, because it was something good that happened or something funny that happened that even this kind of stone-faced lawyer couldn't laugh at.
Well, and he even gave the judge his fair share of shit.
Oh yeah.
Another funny one to me is John Carroll Lynch,
Yes.
the bald guy. Every movie I've seen him in, he's like a secret psycho killer.
Yeah, what is he? A secret psycho? That's exactly what I was thinking.
Well, what have you seen?
I don't know. Well, what was the most...
Fargo?
Well, he's the husband in Fargo.
So
that's right. He's nice.
He's fine in Fargo.
Very nice.
Oh, man. Zodiac.
Yeah,
that's right. I forgot he was in Zodiac.
Yeah, he's Zodiac, but he's also in...
No, he's in something else, though.
Yeah, The Invitation.
Oh, that's the one.
Yeah, he's in Invitation and Zodiac, and he's basically the same role in both of them.
Yeah, he's a very psycho man in that.
Psycho killer.
Yeah, and in this one, he was an anti-violence.
He was a head of his Boy Scout.
Yeah.
So he only has two rules: the very happy Midwest or Minnesota, North Dakota.
Yeah. Family man.
Yeah, family man. White picket fence.
Or psycho killer.
Psycho killer. We need that song.
All right, let's move into some scores. The aggregators. IMDb 8 out of 10, Rotten Tomatoes 91%, and Metacritic is 76%.
All right, I'll go first. I think a little recap on this. Loved the writing, loved the acting, loved the one thing that we didn't touch on earlier that I thought was very impressive was their kind of ability to switch between different shots to kind of tell, but not take a break in the story. So when there was Sacha Baron Cohen on his stand-up or on the stage of in the park,
and the flashbacks,
and the flashbacks and stuff. So whenever they were in the story, or even someone testifying at trial, they would just jump back and forth with keeping in line with the same story. So that was one thing that didn't say earlier, but I loved about the film.
Very Sorkin.
And then I really liked the idea of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, kind of and his role in this and their idea of not really painting a bad guy in this film, and kind of painting the picture as a whole and all of the different moving pieces. And even that argument that he had with Hayden at the end where he said, well, why did he's they shouldn't have pushed us through the glass window. And he said, well, you did break down the barriers and all these things. And he was playing devil's advocate, but all of these things. And they were just basically saying, okay, you were in the wrong, you are innocent, but there's these different situations where you did something bad. Obviously something else happened bad. There's a lot of bad things that happened and a lot of things that happened that shouldn't have happened, but it all happened the way it did. And you guys should be innocent for what they're trying to charge you for. And that's what it boils down to. And I think that they did a really good job of making that point, and not pinning anybody against each other, except for the judge and the corruption of the judge. But overall, I love the film. Really impressed by it. And so I'm going to give it a 90.
I'm embarrassed because in Get On Up, I vaguely remember saying that biographical movies can't go higher than a 7.5.
I also remember you saying that.
I do remember saying that. I really...
we can even replay it if we wanted.
You can. That's fair. I think the range is higher than that because this one's an 8 for me. It was well done. The acting was well done. I still hold salt and a little skepticism for the maybe exaggerations. I don't know if that's the right word. Emphasis. For the emphasis of certain themes and the way characters are represented. It's hard to not do that, or else the story might be boring. Or, hey, it should be on the History Channel, so I understand why. But
They kept it very entertaining.
It was it was needed to be very entertaining, and it did the job. So it's a solid 8.
All right, so for my score, I think Tate kind of wrapped up everything I loved about this movie and said it pretty much how I would have said it. So I'm just going to hop right to my score, and I'm going to give this a 91. I am going to go 1 point above you, Tate, and that is going to give it an average score.
Not mad about it.
Of 87. I just, when Sorkin is in his kind of political element, I think is when he's at his best. And he didn't disappoint in this one, that's for sure.
How does this film rate for you guys for the other Sorkin films that you have seen? Because I feel like for the most part, we all have seen Molly's Game, Social Network, and if you could rate his top 3 films, I guess, what would they be? And does this make it?
This was better than Molly's Game and Social Network for sure. Social Network was meh. It wasn't that high 6s. Molly's Game was low 7s. It was interesting, but way too long. And the fact that lawyer was made up, that's bad.
Movies written by Sorkin: Moneyball, Molly's Game, Social Network,
great.
Steve Jobs, A Few Good Men, Chicago 7, Charlie Wilson's War, The American President, and Malice.
So I guess the ones that I've seen that I think I can say for this room is Moneyball, Social Network, Molly's Game, this one. So how does this one rank for you in that?
Top, and then Moneyball after that, and then the others are kind of blah, blah, blah.
I'd have to rewatch Moneyball, but I would go Moneyball, Trial of the Chicago 7, Molly's Game, Social Network. So I think that's the same as...
You swapped
that's right.
Moneyball and Chicago. And I think I'm going to have to be pretty close. I think I'm going to go Chicago 7. Moneyball and Molly's Game were right next to each other with me. And actually, I think all 3 of those were right in line with each other. I think his films are all really good. If I had to rank them, Chicago, Moneyball, Molly's Game, Social Network. But it'd be those 3 to me, very close, all good movies. But this one, I think, just had an element that had more characters involved. And it was on kind of a more political stance, which I think... our stage.
And like with Molly's Game and Social Network, he was almost writing the villain of the story as the protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
And this one he wasn't. I gave Molly's Game an 86, and I gave Social Network a 78. So
pretty accurate.
And I have not rated Moneyball, but I'd probably give it like a 95 because I love baseball. All right, folks, that is going to do it for today. If you have thoughts or questions, you can shoot us an email at gd4ampodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at gd4gd.movies. And we're also on Twitter at gd4gd_movies. And all 3 of those, that's the number 4. Don't write it out. We would also love for you to leave us a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen on, especially Apple Podcasts. That's the one that's going to help us out most. That's what all the advertisers look at the most. And we will catch you next week at the movies.
When you come to the end of the line with a buddy who is more than a brother and a little less than a wife, getting blind drunk together is really the only way to say farewell.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.